Okay, now, I'm only going to cover this slide today. This is it, okay? Because if you could sum up Chapter 1 in one slide, this would be the slide to do it. What we're talking about in Chapter 1, it's an intro chapter, is we're talking about management information systems. And, information systems is the key to that. So this slide talks about taking a system, an information system, and breaking up in its 5 components. And it's very useful, okay? It's very useful as humans to break things up into components that we can understand, because that helps us get deeper knowledge of things. So oftentimes we do that. We categorize things. And this is a good way to do this. You may not be a programmer, you may not be an information systems professional, but I guarantee you in your role as a business professional, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a manager, whether you're an HR, you're going to deal with a computer information system at some point in your career. You're going to be involved in installing a new information system. You're going to be updating the old one, purchasing one, whatever it might be, or developing one. So it's good to think about the 5-component model this way. So we take these, and it's broken down in 5 ways: hardware, software, data, procedures, people. And we use this model throughout the course. If we think about it, and I think we've made this clear, what's the easiest thing to change in the 5-component framework? What's the easiest thing to change? Christina?
Hardware.
For sure. And it's the degree of difficulty and disruption is easier on this side, right? Hardware is easy to swap out. Okay? It's easy to change a computer. It's easy to change a projector or a printer, whatever it is. It's a very easy thing to do. People, harder to change. We talked about, organizational inertia. People, organizations resist change. And the one good word, I think they use it in the text, but they don't use it up here, is something called disruption. Okay, disruption can be a bad thing. Like if there's a disruption in my class, that's a bad thing. But in the business world, disruption is taking an existing process and disrupting it, like blowing it up. A good example, a classic example of this is like Blockbuster. Who disrupted Blockbuster? To the point of killing them. Yes? Netflix did, right? That model disrupted what Blockbuster was doing to the point where that model became, heck with that model, right? Okay, the new model is Netflix and streaming music, and it was the mail order thing. So disruption in the business world is blowing up an existing process, disrupting it and changing it. A good example of this is Uber. You guys hear Uber? You ever hear of Uber? That's disrupted, okay? Disrupted the whole taxi service and really has caused a lot of issues. So we think about it, there's a symmetry here. The things on the outside, people and hardware do things, right? We do things, printers do things, hard drives do things, touchscreens do things, okay? Software and procedures, software tells hardware what to do, procedures tell people what to do, and data is the thing in the middle, and they call it the bridge. And I think I talked about this. Data needs don't change often. Computers change, okay? Humans change, the way humans interact change, but data needs don't change a whole lot in a process. And I think I used this in 1847, St. Francis Academy was here, and there was like 7 monks, and maybe they taught each other, or 7 Franciscan friars, I guess. But the data was still the same, right? We had students, these friars, they still took classes, they were different classes, they still met somewhere. Those data needs were the same, right? Data, that's 160-some years, 167 years, and it hasn't really changed a whole lot. Right now there's parking and all that stuff, but really, there's still grades, all that data is relatively the same. But this part, that changes a lot. And the process that we are engaged in the business world, disrupting activities, making activities more efficient, more effective, is something called automation. It's moving work from the people and procedure side to the human side, okay? Moving work from the people and procedure side to the human side. And we talked about self-service work systems. We said those are great things. They're a great example of moving things from the human side to the computer side. So a couple other things before we move on, and we're going to talk about what computers are really good at and what humans are really good at. So we talked about the hardware, software, data, procedures, and people. And we also mentioned when we generally spoke about systems, all systems have what? Generally, any system, not just information systems. Systems have inputs, outputs, purpose, boundary, and environment. A system with only inputs and no outputs is called what? And system with outputs and no inputs is called a a miracle, right? We can analyze a lot of things with systems thinking as well. System thinking, there's master's degrees in systems thinking, to tell you the truth, where we analyze anything as a consultant, as a system. So that is a general model of systems. Now, one thing that we didn't cover, which isn't in your text, but it was in a previous text that I used that I like a lot, is we look at the functions of an information systems. And it's out on chapter 1 under Blackboard. And I want us to look at this as well, because we talked about the components of information systems, we talked about systems in general, and I want to talk about the basic core 6 functions of any information system. It's very general. The first one, the C, stands for capture, okay? All information systems, we talked about inputs, they need to capture information. Give me some examples of how information systems capture information. Give me one example of the hardware used to capture information. Give me an example. Any example. What's that? Internet. How does the internet capture information? Like if you want to go to a website in that information system, what do you use so it can capture information from you? What do you use? Yes?
The URL.
Okay, the URL, for sure. But how does that information, that is, I would say the URL is more like the data component, right? But how does an information system capture data for you?
Screen.
Keyboard, okay? Touch screen, right? Scanners, right? Like barcode scanners. Video recording devices, audio. Those are all capturing. Think about it. They're all hardware devices that are capturing information. Okay? Optical scanners, those capture information. These are all examples of things that capture information. Now, once we capture, so keyboard, barcode scanner, document scanner, touchscreen, sound recorder, video camera, voice recognition software, and it's very good at capturing information. The new Kindle Fire Phone has, does anyone have a Kindle Fire Phone? Yeah, I think they're going to flop. But they have some neat things, right? They have some neat things, like they have 6 cameras on the front, and it captures like your face, and you angle the phone, it knows what your face is like. So it's capturing data with the video device, right? The angle of your face. And as long as your face is there, it won't turn off. You ever use your phone and it times out, maybe you're watching something, it won't do it because it recognizes your face. But anyways, okay? So capture. The second thing is not just capture information, but we want to move it somewhere. Okay, we want to move it somewhere. And the big thing when we talk about moving data somewhere, if you send a text message, you think about it, your phone is capturing that, and it's being transmitted to somewhere, right? Through what? Series of wireless satellites, cell phone towers, fiber optic cable, all those kind of things. So a big component of transmission is any kind of thing, like it says broadcast radio, broadcast TV. But if we think about it in terms of information systems, it's really all the networking stuff, right? The access point up here that you might be communicating with right now, the Ethernet cables, those things allow us to transmit information once we have it captured, okay? The third one is store, okay? Store means, hey, once we've captured information, maybe we've transmitted somewhere, we want to store it. And the fourth one is really related to that, store and retrieve. What are some storage and retrieval devices? What are devices that we can store and retrieve with? What's in your laptop right now that allows you to store and retrieve things? Yes, sir?
Hard drive.
Sure, the hard drive, a flash drive, optical drive, any kind of storage medium, like the cloud, which are using hard drives, right? If anyone uses like Google Drive or something like that, those are all storage devices. And storing things is nice, but we have to have the ability to retrieve it at a later time, right? So store and retrieve go together. And then manipulate. What do you think manipulate means? What do you think manipulate means? So we've captured information, we've transmitted, we store it, we know we can retrieve it later, but often we've only retrieved it after we've manipulated it. What manipulates data? What manipulates data? What manipulates data? What changes data and information? What changes, manipulates things? How about if we look at hardware, software, data, procedure, people? What changes data and information? Software does. Very good. Programs do. Programmatically things. We add all this up, divide by 10 to figure out grade point average, right? You know, that is called manipulation of data. We format it a different way. Okay? We're going to do some exercises with Excel where we're going to manipulate data and create information. Create new information from existing information. It's a computer plus software. And then display is, we want to, now, you think about it, we got to capture it from a person, right? They're interacting with this computer or some other device. You know, some things aren't captured from just humans. If you think about, weather sensors, they're capturing information but not from humans. And then we want to display it. And usually we want to display it to a person, right? Because they are going to make a decision or use this information somehow. So the big one is like a screen, right? Your computer screen, your phone screen, printers or a display device. Anything, that can output devices, output information for someone to read. Now we're going to use this information in a moment, but before we do that, okay, we've been talking about automation, okay? And we've been talking about we're going to talk about what computers are good at and what humans are good at. But before we do that, I want to give you a little quiz, okay? I want to give you a little quiz. So take out a piece of paper if you would, if you don't have a piece of paper out. It's muggy in here. Is it muggy in here? Can I open the door, Andy?
Yeah.
I have a tie on, for God's sake. I hate wearing ties. Oh, it's cooler out here.
Are you collecting this?
No. Okay. So I randomly want to ask you to think of a number between 1 and 10. Think of any number between 1 and 10. But don't talk to each other during this. What's that? Yeah, write it down. Okay. Now I want you to multiply that number by 9. So if it's 4, 9 times 4 is 36. All right. Add those two digits together. Like if it's a 2-digit number, add those two digits together. So you've got 36, it'd be 3 plus 6. All right. God bless you. Subtract 5 from that. Okay. Now I want you guys good? All right. Now I want to, whatever your number, that last number you have, I want you to associate that with a letter on the alphabet. So for those of you who don't know the alphabet, I put it up here today. Like if you get a 1, it's an A, right? If you get a 2, it's a B, 3 is C, 4 is D. If you get a Z, or 26, it's Z, okay? You guys know what I'm saying? All right, so now you have that number, now you have a letter. Okay, I want you to randomly think of a country that starts with the letter you just got. Randomly think of a country that starts with that letter you just got. Any country. A lot of countries, right? A lot of people are struggling.
That's the question.
Huh?
That's a stupid question.
Yeah.
You asked me.
Yeah, that's a country. Holy moly. Where has the American educational system failed us? That's a country, yes. All right. Now take your country and circle the last letter of that country. Okay. And think of an animal that starts with that letter. So if you got like Finland, start with an animal that starts with the letter D. Starts with the dachshund. That animal, that's a type of animal. Dog, I guess. Just not a dog, apparently. Okay, now circle the last letter of that. And now think of a fruit that starts with that letter. Huh?
We're going to end up all the same fruit. I don't know.
All right. Does everyone have their answer? Taylor has her answer. You guys got a good group here. All right, so here's where the magic happens in MIS class, right? So I'm sorry I put this under the wrong desk, but Rodrigo, I want you to reach under your desk. Reach under your desk. Watch out for the gum and stuff in there. Reach under your desk. Is there an envelope taped under your desk? Oh, maybe it's under Maya's. Maya, is there an envelope under your desk?
Yep.
Okay. Open up the envelope, please. You, Maya, yeah, and I want you to stand up and read it, please.
Are you thinking of a kangaroo in Denmark eating an orange?
All right, now, how many people are thinking of that? All right, should come out to be about 80%, all right? Are you thinking of a kangaroo eating an orange in Denmark? Okay. Now the reason for that is, and what I'm trying to show you, is that task structured or unstructured? That task we just went through. And structure is a big thing when we talk about computers versus humans. Structure is an important component of what we can assign to computers and what we can assign to humans. That task seems like it has a lot of unstructured ability to it. Think about it. I'm asking you to pick a country. How many countries are there? There are a lot of countries, right? I pack you to pick an animal, there's a lot of animals, right? But the thing is, it has less structure than you imagine. That mathematical sequence you went up to, if you did your math right, it should always come out to 4. If you didn't come out to 4, then you did your math wrong, right? So that's not my fault. Okay? So if you did your math right, it should come out to 4 always. Okay? So you think to yourself, well, I picked a number at random, 1 to 10. So now we're random, but no, it comes out to 4. Okay? The next thing, so that's always DES. There's only, I think, 4 countries that start with the letter D. Okay, and Denmark is the only one, since we're a very European central culture, Denmark is the one that we know, right? Well, what are the other 3? Dominican Republic. Dubai's a city. Anyone else? Dominican Republic, Dominica, which are separate. And the last one's my favorite one. Djibouti. For real, that's a country. Look it up, it's a country, okay? So that's the 4th one, all right? But people don't know well, they think Dominican Republic. I think you had Dominican Republic, right? Or someone did.
I
Haiti?
put Denmark.
Okay, Denmark, all right. And then, so it leads you to K, right? That leads you to K. And you think about it, there are some like koala, but I think 3% of people say koala. Yeah, you guys said koala? You're foreigners, though.
I was wondering between kangaroo and koala.
All right, but when we're little, when we're little learning the alphabet, what are all the flashcards you see for K? It's either kangaroo or kite or key. I mean, that's the things when you're very early on, they associate things, right? Like Z is always zebra, for God's sake, right? Like forever, because that's how you learn. So you think kangaroo, and then O, of course, there's not many fruits with O. So it's more structured than it looks. So when we talk about computers versus humans, one thing, and I want you guys to help me with this, how do we assign things to computers versus humans? The first task, the first attribute of a process that we need if we're going to assign it to a computer is it needs to be structured. The better the structure is, the more something is structured, the better it lends itself to computers. Give you an example. You take out, ATMs. Okay, that's a very good example because ATMs have been, it's structured a process at the teller line. It's happened forever. Every ATM transaction you have, if you and I end up, getting $160, it goes through the same process every damn time, doesn't it? You enter your card, you enter your PIN, hopefully you get your PIN right. If you get your PIN right, it goes here. Here are your selections. If you don't, go here. Anything you can flow chart out easily is a good example of processes with structure, okay? So for us to assign something to computers, this automation, it has to have structure. I want you to think about, and I want you guys to help me with this, why do we want to assign things to computers, okay? How are computers better than us at certain tasks and processes? So it has to have structure. Why would we want to assign to a computer? What could they do better than us? What do they do better than us? Yes, Plum.
Don't forget things.
Okay. All right. So if you think about it, a couple things is because they're structured, they do it the same way every damn time. And I'm looking for a better word. How about consistency? We have bad days, right? We get tired, right? They don't get tired. They don't, right? They don't get tired. They may overheat, but they don't get tired, right? Even when you play a sport, right? Toward the end, you've hit 1,000 backhands, right? Plumbing, you play tennis. But there's occasions where you just shank it, right? And because you're not a computer, right? You can't do it the same way over and over again, or you're going to be world class, right? But computers can do things over and over again. What else? Why else do we assign things to computers? So consistency, they have that over us. What else? Yes?
Eliminates the chance of mistake.
Okay, so less variability for sure, and less mistakes. That leads to less mistakes. You know, a lot of people say something like, "Oh, the computer screwed that. The computer's wrong. The computer just does." That's a cop. A computer just does what someone has told it to do. You know, the programmer is the one that screwed up. If it's wrong, it's because someone programmed it wrong, or the business analyst gave the wrong specifications. Computers do what we tell them to do, period. What else? What else? What else? Yes, Annie.
Faster?
Okay, very much so. Especially certain things that take a lot of computation, right? Computation, you know, the best human, the genius, the Rain Man of our time cannot compete with a computer, right? For the speed of automation, for computational speed. Can't do it, right? We cannot do it. Very good. Faster, less variability, consistent, don't get tired. Okay, can be up, 24/7. Anything else? I'm trying to think. I'm struggling for more things right now, but what else? Anything else? All right, so we gave a lot to the computers, right? Every time, consistent, less verbal, less mistakes, faster. I don't even know what the hell I wrote there. Don't get tired, okay, don't get tired. Why then do we still have humans? What do we still need humans for in this information system? What do we still need information? What do we still need humans for? And why? You know, why do we still work? Not just to program computers, but what are things that we need humans for still?
Judgment call.
What's that?
Judgment call.
Very good. One thing is things that require judgment, right? You know, computers are very good at structured decisions, right? There are what's called expert systems. Expert systems we'll talk about later are things that capture if-then rules. For example, if we were trying to admit you to college, okay, and we say, okay, if his SAT is greater than this, and his GPA is greater than this, and his test of English report is greater than this, admit, right? But that would be fine, but then there's gray areas, right? There might be someone who doesn't fall into that, and we need to have a person say, well, let's interview this guy and see if he has what it takes. Maybe he's mature, those kind of things. Things that take that kind of judgment. Computers can't do that, right? The soft data that we talked about. Plumbing?
The mechanical voices that they have nowadays, and they cannot help you as much as the person
Okay.
with AT&T or something.
Why not? You're right.
I just hate them so much.
You hate them so much.
Yeah,
Okay.
like you need something you cannot talk. with
Okay.
the person.
But what those lack, I like those voice interaction things where you say like yes, no. I used to use the Google's online voice search. It was free for a while. You guys remember that? No. You'd say like pizza, Portage, PA, and come back with some search results. And what they were doing, what Google was doing, that was a free service. What were they doing? That was like years ago. What were they doing with that?
Testing it out.
Yeah, exactly. They were refining their craft. You know what I'm saying? They were refining their voice recognition software. So now they have, the Google, you guys use the Google voice search now on your phones? You ever use that? No, I use it. It's pretty damn good, right? It gets you almost 95% of the time, and usually there's a kid screaming in the background. It still gets it, right, in my house. But it still gets it. But that's what they were doing. They were getting a lot of samples to refine their algorithm, refine their voice recognition software. But what you're right about that is what it lacks is like nuance, right? Like the nuance of human relationships. they can't easily decipher the tone of your voice or sarcasm, right? Or those kind of things, or that this person is really struggling at this point, needs, whatever it might be. The nuance of human relationships, no good at, right? No good. How about things that require creativity is another one, okay? Tasks that require creativity. They can do what we tell them to do, they know what we tell them to know, but if there's a new thing, a new forefront, not very good, right? We are very good at innovative, at thinking, putting things together in a certain way that adds new value, okay? But one thing that kind of overarches all this is the task to some degree, needs to have some kind of structure. It doesn't have to be perfectly structured, but it has to have some kind of structure, okay? Some kind of structure. So here's what I want to do. We have about, well, first I got to show you something. So automation, boom, boom, boom. Out on Blackboard, I want to show you this right now. Under assessments and quizzes, there is a chapter 1 quiz. It's multiple choice. It's timed at 45 minutes. It's 20 multiple choice. You may take it twice. Okay, you may take it twice, and I'll keep your higher grade. Now, you're not going to get the same quiz every time. There's a pool of questions, and it randomly pulls 20. Excuse me. I don't mind if you use your book. I don't mind if you use your book, but don't use your friends. Okay, well, that's not a bad thing to do. It's a good thing to do ever, but don't use your friends. Don't use any kind of person to help you. All right. So you can take it twice. It's multiple choice. Take it twice. I'll keep the higher of the 2 grades. All right. Questions?
After you take the first one, can you review it?
Yeah, it gives you the answers. Yes, it does. But you may not get those same 20.
Right, but
yes.
just for...
Yes, you can review it. Any other questions? Okay, so here's what I'd like. How many people we have? Let's say... I want to break up into, let's do 10 groups, okay? So let's count off 1 through 10.
2, 3, 4, 5,
9,
1, 2, 5,
6,
7, 8,
2,
3,
4,
7, 8.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We have 10, so let's do, you can move. I'm sorry about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You need a computer for this? You need a computer? Not necessarily, no. Dr.